Say Oh, that was cool.
Good. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is my guest, Will Salmon, and it's really great to have you on. I'm just
Great to be here.
doing a few little adjustments here for my pages, and go away for that. Great. So, yeah, Will, I mean, we're going to get into this, but obviously, if you saw that, which you did if you're here, Will is an actor, a singer, a musician, and a producer of events. I don't know, have I left anything out?
Nothing more that needs to be said.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before about which I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about because I just find the subject really interesting about how others perceive artistic unusual let's see, how can I say it, unusual artistic or not in the quote unquote norm, or how people perceive that and what the support is for that, and how do we keep um, supporting ourselves in the continuity of doing it.
Good, good.
Huge, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, where I live a lot of the time. So yes.
yeah. I mean, so let's look at a little bit of your past too to see how you got to this point. Um, so where did it start for you? Where are you from?
I'm from St. Louis, Missouri,
Okay.
and my first passion was ancient Greek mythology,
Uh-huh.
still a passion,
Yeah.
and lived in an imaginative world a lot of the time as a child, like most children do. Me a little more than most, but I had parents who were sympathetic. Um, got a kick out of me. And so, yes. And then, but when I was about 13, I'd been playing music like many people, taking lessons, and music was one thing that I was enjoyed doing and was had more native skill than basketball or softball, certainly,
Yeah.
or academics. But I enjoyed music a lot. And about 13 or 14, I decided I wanted to be a musician. And about 22, I decided I wanted to do it music combined with theater. And about 24, I decided I wanted to do the theater as well, not just collaborate with people, but I actually had these theater ideas that I had to do. Still working on some of those ideas today.
Really? The ideas from back then?
Yes.
Oh my God. Wow. So those ideas, were they long-term ideas or were
Yeah. Well, I put them down, pick them up, put them down, pick them
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
One of the first things I thought of was Agamemnon, the Greek,
Yeah.
and I'll probably do that in 2 years. And I've done different incarnations of that as time has gone on. One was completely composed, which never got performed. One was completely improvised, which got performed. And the next one will be a combination. But each time I've hopefully matured in some way, certainly changed,
Yeah.
matured in not necessarily good ways, but
What was so alluring to you about Agamemnon?
I don't know. A lot of things I can tell you why. This is why I love this. But the ancient Greeks, do my best. I've always wanted to have an archetypal theater that went very much to the fundamentals of or a psyche, and the theater represented that. And the ancient Greeks are a great model for that. A lot of people go to that, and I don't do it to try to do it as the Greeks used to do it or anything. I take it to get the archetypes, then I can build from, and where the music and the theater and the dance and the visuals are all really joined to a single expression. And but the archetype goes through that, and often it's literature. Sometimes I use biblical stories. Sometimes I use stories from the Noh drama, which also influences me a lot. But
I'm sorry, you said, what was the second thing you said sometimes?
biblical,
Sorry?
biblical things from
Oh,
the Bible.
okay. Sorry, I didn't hear that word. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
probably you weren't expecting it.
Maybe not.
But that being said, a couple of my heroes over the years, very early, it was Bach
Uh-huh.
and then Messiaen, who both were very religious,
Uh-huh.
and improvisers on the pipe organ.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Major
big time.
improvisers, right.
Yes, big
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I went, ooh, that would be fun. That's what I want to do.
So, all right. So, and then, of course, you were collecting cohorts, right?
Yes. Yeah. That I worked 1982 as an open gate formed, but the biggest change, in many ways, more of the formation was when Alex Klein started working. I started working together.
Yeah.
Alex has been a collaborator on most of my projects,
Huh.
and frankly, the main reason why I can get such amazing performers to work with me. They're willing to work with me, but they're eager to work with him. And
And
he,
yeah, and just let's I don't think I've had Alex on, but can you just tell a little bit about Alex to our listeners?
Alex is an amazing percussionist. Um, he he has a very versatile style. Um, Very tone color oriented. He is delighted to be very soft and subtle, and delighted. I'm not sure if he's delighted anymore, but quite willing to get very ferocious.
Mhm.
Uh, Flaming drums going, which early on was essential for me to work with, and now not as essential. uh, I wish it still was, but it is. But even more amazing than his playing is his ability to listen and respond well to whatever comes up, and that he's kind of a class of his own that way,
Yeah.
to my mind. Whatever
Do you think
comes.
he's, I'm just curious, do you think he's similar to Brad Dutz? Because that's what I think of Brad.
He responds much more than Brad Dutz. Brad Dutz usually has his ideas that he goes through,
I see.
but Alex will, whatever's happening, he will connect
Oh,
with. Um, they're both. I've worked a lot with Brad Dutz as well,
yeah.
um, and I enjoy working with him. But they're very different personalities. Very different
Huh.
personalities. Um, and Brad tends to be right on top of it,
Yeah, yeah.
and Alex lets it happen, but he's on top of it, in the back of the seat.
Right. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, very very different in personality, but I'd say sound. If you know Brad Dutz, you'd probably have a good idea of the type of wide use of tone color and different meters and patterns, and doing wild things that still seem very natural, at
Yeah,
least 20 years.
yeah, yeah. And so when did you and Alex start working together?
1983.
Oh, okay, right after the open gate
Yeah,
opened.
yeah.
Yeah.
We and he came and saw me perform, and he liked that I was very scary on stage and very unscary off stage.
Okay.
He
You know,
liked the combination.
I I'm trying to imagine because I've started a lot of various things, venues and
Mhm.
events and stuff. I'm trying to imagine you starting the Gate Theater, and if you had if you had an immediate goal in mind or a long-term goal in mind, did you want to, like many times, the things that I start, I, I'm going to benefit from them, but others are benefiting. And I learned that a long time ago about myself, that I don't really like things that only help me. I don't get off on it. So was that the kind of beginning
Yes,
that it had?
yes. Collaboration has been an essential part of it.
Yeah.
Um, not to be confused that each piece has someone whose vision it is, and that everyone goes around to make that vision happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people collaborating are just as important. For instance, when I work with Roxanne Steinberg on the three pieces I've worked with her on, each of them, two of them was my idea, and my idea was realized by her. But by the time of performance, it was at least as much her idea as mine. But my idea was being done the way I wanted it
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
her vision was similar. It doesn't always happen that way.
Right.
Sometimes you're collaborating and you get a clear vision of it, and it's different than the person who really it's their piece,
Yeah.
and you need to back off at those times.
Yeah.
But I love to empower other people to create,
Yeah.
not just myself. And yeah, I enjoy that, and seeing and hearing what other people do matters to me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, I, it's great. It's great. Great form to follow. And
Yes.
so, and did you, let's see, so at that point, the word theater, uh, Unique Montalongo says hello. I don't know who that is, but I have some other people, Roland Ascaruns and Joyce Glasgow. Um, but what was my question? It was the word theater, kind of immediately brings up an acting platform,
Mhm.
right? With actors on the stage. They could be doing some music, but mostly it's about acting.
Mhm.
So was that your vision as
Um,
well?
yes. Two things on that. One is I was even though my background in music is stronger
Yeah.
and longer than my background in dance, at that point, I was at least as much of a dancer as a musician.
Uh-huh.
And in dance, it was a common practice at the time, it may still be, where it would be Los Angeles Dance Theater, such and such theater, the end name of an ensemble.
Uh-huh.
And the first ensemble we went with, we had an actor, a dancer, and myself, who was a musician, a dancer, the trio at the very beginning. We formed the name then. And then throughout our time, I've actually had many more extraordinary musicians to work with than extraordinary dancers. The number of extraordinary dancers that I've worked with is fairly small.
Yeah.
Usually, I feel lucky if I have three dancers that are really good to work with. Um, but musicians, I've typically have so many that the ones that I love to work, the ones that I like to work with, it's really uh, it's a wide group of people
Yeah.
that has been most of the time of Open Gate. But at the beginning, it wasn't. I knew as many dancers as musicians, and I was going to be the musician and get dancers to be working with me. But um, musicians were easier to bring on board
Yeah.
and easier to keep on board too. That the dancers typically, that was nice after one concert and leave. The musicians would stay around for the next project, which I love. I love having an ensemble of people that I can keep working with, that we can grow and build on past experiences.
Yeah.
Um, I very seldom have exactly the same ensemble, but nearly everyone in the ensemble I've worked with before um, and enjoyed working with. And so that's an important priority to me, that we can build on past experiences. and you grow together.
Yeah.
And I want people that I can learn from too.
Yeah.
So
I'm wondering if we can see an example of that. We can go look and let's see. um, we were talking about that bridge, but that's,
that's not typical. It's one of our lightest pieces, but it has Tobar Mayo, who is one of the originators, one of the founders of Open Gate. Our first concert, we went to Tokyo,
yeah.
and Tobar had a free, and I both worked for Pan American Airlines, and so we had free passes. So when they invited us there, Tobar had a companion travel, and so we brought the third person, and we performed in Tokyo for our first performance. So Tobar, while he hasn't performed often with Open Gate, he's a sentimental favorite, and this is the most recent thing he's done, and he's.
Okay.
And there's Tuba, who is the
Yeah.
clown, also in this, but it's me playing recorder.
Okay. So
To-
it's
Tobar, the man with the top hat,
right.
was played the part of I think it was called Tobar. Now I've forgotten the name of the movie. He was the first black superhero, in this really badly constructed movie, but he was the first Black superhero in any full-length motion pictures. And that was right before I met him that happened, that he was there. And yeah, he's interesting. Tuba was the singing ringmaster with the Barnum and Bailey Circus.
Oh.
And, a full-on clown, and we had the situation where Roger Rabbit is asked why he didn't come out of handcuffs. You could do that all the time, only when it's funny. And getting Tuba to play music, it's kind of a situation where he can play it, but only when it's funny. It's weird when he messes up and when he doesn't. It isn't because it's hard, it's because it's not funny and he has a hard time doing it. But and he's like that in real life, I have to say. He's a lot like a clown character in real
Kind of
life.
reminds me of Gene, what's his name, the actor, who was in all the great Gene, oh gosh, what's his name? Huh?
Gene Wilder or Gene
Yeah,
Kelly?
Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
So I've read a bunch on him, and he's like, he doesn't think he's funny. It's only in the moment that he gets funny. That's how he reacts. It's not like really written into the script or anything.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, yeah. Did you guys do that exact thing in Tokyo? I can just imagine.
No, this is quite recently.
Oh, okay.
This was during COVID.
Oh,
And so in COVID, we couldn't do much, but
yeah,
we could get in the backyard,
yeah.
put up a green screen. I could videotape the Colorado Street Bridge, which the people in Pasadena love that bridge. Oh, we love that bridge, including me. So I green screen performance, put the green screen performance, so it didn't fool anybody, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But it suggested being on the bridge up there
yeah.
with the green screen. And so that was 2 years ago, year and a half ago, something like that.
Okay. Yeah,
And we didn't do anything like that in Tokyo.
yeah. I see.
He did a very imposing figure,
Uh-huh.
one piece, and in another piece he got up and told a story. Just got up, and he's a very Tobar is very charming in his storytelling, very delightful man. And, he was delightful over there, and he was very exotic in Tokyo. They loved him in Tokyo.
I'm sure they did. Let's see. I'm not sure. My friend said the rondador. I'm not sure what she was asking. So I'm qualifying that. And obviously, improvisation is a lot of your
Mhm.
form. Um, is this too broad a question? What do you think of improvisation?
No, it's not. I love doing improvisation. In fact, that's what I spend most of my time doing music doing. But that being said, it's not an aesthetic value of mine in itself. But I love improvisation because it allows you to respond more fully
Uh-huh.
than if it's written.
Yeah.
Whether that's responding to theater, which was an initial sort of, if you're working dance, whatever that dancer is doing, whatever that musician is doing, you're there with them.
Yeah.
And also, you're responding to your own emotions at that time too, not just the outside, but what's going on internally. You can respond to that, and you can respond to your technique. I remember William Roper, who I've worked with in the past quite a bit. Someone wrote out a piece like what he had improvised. He was like, I can't play that. and what do you mean you can't play? I just heard you play it. I can only play when it's improvised. There's a virtuosity that, same with me, I do these rhythms that if you wrote them down, oh man, it would be so difficult to learn those rhythms, but I can just toss them out like that. And rhythms are particularly where writing it out can become tedious. And also the amount of time it takes, even if it only takes a moment to write it out, by then the charm of the rhythm has been lost. And so I start thinking it's no good. Whereas improvising, the charm is completely intact. Melodies less so. I like, I can compose melodies where the pitches are, if I did this, it would be a little better. If I did this, oh yes, this is what I want to hear. But rhythm is, what happened to it? I just realized, I thought I had plenty of charge in my battery here.
You have a little less than you hoped.
Yes, I'm going to have to run and get my charger.
That's totally fine. I'll go listen to something.
Yes, please.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna dig up something else to listen to here. Not a problem. So I've actually performed at the Open Gate Theater, which is part of Alex Klein's and Will Salmon's project together. Okay, the Litter Fairy.
Luckily, there is the Litter Fairy. The Litter Fairy is so nice. All day long, the Litter Fairy walks around and picks up all the litter. The Litter Fairy is so beautiful. The Litter Fairy is the most beautiful creature in all of creation. See how the Litter Fairy floats through the forest like a vapor, gliding among all things. Gathering all the litter until all the litter is gone.
Once again, the Colorado Street Bridge there.
Oh yeah, I see it.
This is Noel Rhodes. I asked him to do a piece and I'd do music for it. So this is the video he sent me and I put music with it. Very typical of his work.
Gathering all the litter into a perfect bag. And at the end of the day, the Litter Fairy throws the bag into the sky, where it disappears. And the most important thing to remember is that the Litter Fairy doesn't exist.
Yeah. Noel is quite a character. Love him. You know Noel, right? You've worked.
Is he the Sunspace?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, he's a really interesting guy. Yeah, and I know
Yeah,
that
he's got the great space there now at Unusual Tuesdays at
At the Oracle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's delightful.
Yeah, he is really a cool guy. Let's see. Joyce Glasgow, who's an artist in Seattle. She's excited to read that you are influenced by no theater
Mhm.
back in the 70s. My experimental theater company, the Magic Circle Theater, received a grant to study in Seattle with the Nomura brothers,
Mhm.
no actors, and considered national treasures from Japan.
Mhm.
That resulted in our No Kyogen production of Sophocles' Antigone. Is that right?
Antigone?
Antigone, yes, entitled No Antigone in Chicago. The
Mhm.
Nomuras were very kind to loan us their hundreds of years old, priceless no masks to use as
Wow.
models to create our own masks. We did role reversals in our interpretation. Creon was played by a woman, Antigone played by a man. I was the Kyogen comic relief character. It was beautiful.
Hmm. Hmm.
Cool.
Well, whoever it is that did that, if you want to be in touch with me, I'd love to talk with you about it because it's continued to be an influence on me. The next big full theater concert I'm doing will be the No play
Oh,
that we've made a video of, but I want to do it live, collaborating with Roxanne Steinberg. Yeah. Hopefully Keo Griffith, but he's so busy that sometimes that doesn't happen.
is Keo here now?
Last I heard, he was in Japan, so he kind of goes between the two, but I think he's mostly in Japan now,
Yeah,
which makes it hard to collaborate.
a little bit, unless you go to Japan.
Oh, I would love to do that, but easier said than done.
Yeah, Keo's great. He's designed several CD covers for me.
Hmm.
Joyce, I sent you Will's email. That's good, right, Will?
Yes, please, please, yes.
Her name is
So yeah, I
Joyce Glasgow.
the first piece I did full was a no piece, and now this most recent one, and it influences a lot of what I do.
Hmm.
The Philoctetes, which was my big piece last year, even though it's a Greek tragedy, it's based, the structure is very influenced by no drama.
Yeah.
But it happens to the Greek plays like that structure. But I don't do much that's overtly no. I don't move like a no actor. When I have masks, they don't look like no masks. So not much overt um, no influence, but a lot of structural and influences. Um, and yeah, and I know is very rich place for that. Yeah, I'm more directly influenced by sounds of Balinese music and dance,
Oh,
but not structurally influenced. The drama structure is not what I take, but no, it's this drama structure.
I see.
This combination of storytelling, the flute and the percussion, the
Yeah,
choral work, the way the dance is combined,
yeah.
the way the interaction of the two main characters all influences just about everything I do theatrically.
I like your singing too. I like your voice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, you in ways you remind me of Stephen Nachmanovich. Do you know who that is?
It sounds familiar, but I don't know him. If
Well, he's an improvisationalist, violinist, but
Mhm.
he also is an author of two books. One was written about almost 30 years ago called Free Play,
Mhm.
Improvisation in Life and the Arts. And then his second one he came out with last year, The Art of Is. And he's a very intelligent, wonderful human. And yeah, uh, some of his improvisational kind of vocal gestures are similar to yours. I think you guys would probably really like each other.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, he's on the East Coast.
yeah,
Oh well. Sometimes he comes out here.
yes.
Um, So you said you had another job with the airlines or something? Is that
I
what
had
you
a
said?
job with the airlines for 3 years,
Hmm.
Pan American Airlines, and it was cleaning airplanes, but I got travel benefits.
Oh,
It was amazing
huh.
to just pick up and fly. And it was a time when really very little interest in my music here.
Yeah.
And but there was interest there. And so I could go there and I could get gigs there and people would come and enjoy it. Whereas here it was
And
only
you're, when you
doing
say there, where do you mean?
Tokyo.
Oh, okay.
But
So,
then later on, but that was um 1980 to 1983.
uh-huh.
And then I went back again in 2012 because my daughter went there and lived there for 3 years in Kyoto.
Oh,
And um, it's changed a lot, but Kyoto is a wonderful city.
mm,
I thought it would be cold, and I mean emotionally cold, but not at all.
yeah.
People there were very warm and very responsive to new ideas.
It's a very
Part of
artistic.
it was my daughter was a scout for it, and she went in. She's got very good social skills, and and so she connected with the innovative artists in Kyoto very strongly. And so I just came in as her dad, and they wanted to meet her dad. So it was
That's
great.
cool. Is she an actress or a
She's
musician?
a performance artist. She combines, um, she does some amazing storytelling, but she does dance, especially Buto dance. She studied Buto dance, and it's probably the type of dance that she's most skilled in.
Hmm.
Though she has a cheerfulness that you don't normally find in Buto dance. Her teacher, she found the warmest Buto teacher I know of over there, who was just very responsive to her. And it was wonderful. Ima-san is a great dancer and a great human being too over there. I just worked with her a little bit, but seeing how she works with people, it's wonderful. So I got a chance to work with her and with this amazing accordion player that Mitsu had worked. My daughter's name is Mitsu, had worked with over there, an accordion player who just could do wonderful things on the accordion. Who in the space there was Urban Guild, he ran that, which was terrific. So Kyoto is really wonderful when I was there.
I think Kyoto is one of the more artistic towns, and I always say I like the artists and the farmers the best in Japan. They're the people who are the earthy, wonderful,
Mhm.
creative people. Yeah, the business stuff makes me think I'm on another planet, but you know,
Well,
the artists and the farmers, really cool people.
mhm, mhm. And some of the most avant-garde art there comes from people from family backgrounds that are farmers. Um, uh,
Interesting.
um, that uh, you know, Hichikata, who did more to form Buto than anyone else,
Uh-huh.
grew up on a farm
Uh,
and rural, and influenced his work. And you can see rural traditions being entered in. And I was working with a modern dancer when I was first in Tokyo, and she said that Buto, like, and she wasn't a Buto fan, shall we say. It was kind of this new thing that was uh, troubling to her. But
huh.
she said, it's like you go into the country and you find an old Japanese home, the type of where multiple families live in there. It's very old fashioned. And you go into the cellar and you find these amazing cloths, these amazing garments, and you put those on and dance with those. And that's what Buto's like. And I went, oh my gosh, recognizing how tied to early roots, the farmers, that Buto
Yeah.
was at that stage, and to a certain extent still is. Those are still the roots of it.
So
Uh,
Buto I'm just looking it up while we're speaking. It's a form of Japanese dance theater that
yeah.
encompasses a diverse range of activities, techniques, and motivations for dance, performance, or movement following. Following World War II, Buto arose in 1959 through collaborations
Mhm.
through the two key founders, Tatsumi Hijikata and Kazuo Ono.
Mhm. Mikata was more the one who organized it, but Ono was the performer who so captivated the world. He didn't. He was dancing. Ono, Kazuo Ono,
Uh,
um, really hit his peak in his late 70s and danced into his early 90s. And he did not hide the fact that he was old. It was almost like having a ghost on stage.
wow.
Just amazing performer. I saw him in New York when I had the Pan Am benefits. Flew there to see him in New York, and he was. It was. He was very otherworldly in his dancing,
Hmm.
and yes, very extraordinary. But as a teacher, he was more of an inspiration than not a technical teacher.
Uh-huh.
He was pretty much in an altered state a lot of the time, but
Ah,
which you would expect from someone in their 80s. That's not.
yeah, this is
It's
very,
functioning very well that way, but isn't good at designing venues and things like that. Is quite acceptable for someone in their 80s, I think.
yeah, definitely. Interesting. This may be who you're speaking of, or maybe not, but
Yes, it is. It is.
yeah, yeah. I think I saw something on video
Mhm.
regarding this, but I definitely did not see this while I've traveled through Japan. That would be pretty amazing to see. That's gorgeous. Oh, wow.
It's very intense sort of theater, but it's they said that uh, Ono is an angel and Hichikata is a devil, and they talked about the two of them because on stage Ono would be so sweet, and Hichikata would, he loved to do strip tease shows, and he'd have giant golden phalluses on the stage and get pretty down and dirty what he did. And they got along great, but they were totally different personalities, which was cool. Which kind of ties in with, I think that in so many things, if you can have something very different that fully meshes and works together, that it's totally different,
Yeah.
it's a very rich environment. And I think the two of them were that way.
Oh,
Totally
yeah.
different, but
Do you know
worked
if there's
wonderfully.
Buto in Los Angeles?
Yes, yes. Several, find it worldwide. Um, Oguri comes from the Buto tradition, the dancer who was one of the leading dancers in
Yeah.
LA. And his wife, Roxanne, is the dancer I work with a lot. She's my
Oh.
love working with her. And when I said Buto influence, she kind of went, I don't really do Buto. And I went, okay, influence. Yeah, okay. Um, she wasn't too pleased with the influence term, but she knew it was true. But she, no, that isn't what I trained in. But it is what she's seen a lot of and participated with people a lot of. But she, no, that isn't what I trained.
Sorry, I was just adjusting here.
Anyway, there are other dancers that are Buto dancers in town as well.
uh,
Um, and but Oguri is definitely the best known of those, and probably the best of those as well. Certainly, he's a wonderful dancer.
cool. I'm going to have to investigate that. It looks really interesting.
They do things at the Electric Lodge
Oh,
frequently. They're kind of in sort of, not kind of, they're in a sort of residency there, and they do at least once a year performance there, and then they do other places um, perform. You'll probably see me try to present him now that we're back to presenting concerts again. That I'm planning on. Hey, do you want to come and work with Open Gate? And have him dance with, who do you want to work with? And he knows the musicians there. He's quite in touch with the musicians in town, the improvising musicians in town.
ah,
So
yeah,
I'm sure he'll say Alex.
yeah. It's such an interesting world you're involved in. And it's really distinctive. I know we spoke about this a little earlier, just, that we might get into conversations about this, but um, it's a pretty dedicated reality that I see. You know, it. Let's see. Trying to gather my question together. Um, to me, it goes deeply into personal. I don't know if ethics is the right word, but and it's not really goals. It's somewhere in between goals and ethics. It's why am I doing this? What am I doing? I'm doing this for the betterment of myself, my colleagues, mankind. You know, I mean, am I reading too deeply into it, or do you feel?
Yeah, I I love doing the art that I do. I'm drawn to certain things, and I keep being drawn to those same things. And I love creating. But I also feel that doesn't excuse me from being a good person, doesn't excuse me from being involved with what's going on in the world. It does excuse me from some norms and some expectations. Um, uh, I'll take the artist's license to do that. But I've seen enough artists that are really good human beings. You go, wonderful human being. I've seen that is not unusual at all. The stereotype, I don't know if it's a stereotype, but the type of the artist who's a nasty person but a great artist.
Yeah.
I know that exists. I've known a few people like that, but not usually. Usually, the people that I admire as artists are usually delightful and ethical people. I like the artist I know, even if I'm not working with them, not just because I enjoy their work, but I find artists to be, we're pulled into something very wonderful and wonderful.
Yeah.
And for instance, you're drawn to something and you have a vision of other people. You're drawn to a form of music and to a context of music that makes you interested in other people and in their lives and their enrichment. I mean, it's very obvious this series, whatever I haven't had that much interaction with you, but every interaction I've seen has been that way, that really matters to you. And I would say I'd say that fits in with being an artist. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's very compatible with being an artist.
Yeah.
And yes, there's Wagner and there's Picasso, but there's also people that isn't who I've experienced. I've experienced people who are good people, and the art is an expression and a connection to that.
Yeah. Yeah. um, I want to tap in just a little bit to the musical part. You know,
Mhm.
that I guess, is it right to say that Alex has a little bit more? Well, you said Alex works on all different kinds of projects with you, but
Yeah.
the music stuff, is Alex more leaning towards that, or yeah, like as
Um,
far
I
as
wouldn't say music as opposed to theater. Because part of the draw when we first started working together, it was primarily him doing music for my dance.
okay,
And he was always interested in working with dance, but he found my dance to be um, where his music could have full life and be part of the dance, which is exactly what I wanted. And um, so he's very much involved with that. But I would say that I kind of work with, the old fashioned model of tragedy and comedy isn't quite right, but I'll go with the Greek, um, of I have the lighter pieces and I have the opera, the heavier pieces, the one that are heavier,
uh-huh,
and I'll bring him in on the light pieces, but that isn't really what he prefers. He'd rather not do the clown pieces,
yeah,
but he's totally there when we do um, uh, something like Night Spirit or Hecuba. That's more his aesthetic, where he's comfortable,
Yeah.
as opposed to my friend Tuba. I'll bring the clown,
Yeah.
who I would bring in on a serious project if he fits it really well. We did the story of Saul and David, and having a clown play the part of the Mad King Saul. That because clowns kind of do insane things, but they make them appealing. And Saul, I wanted to be that way. And so I can get him to do serious things. But often there's a thing that starts out not serious and ends up serious, like Dionysus in Hell starts out with very much clown bit. I mean, we go to fart jokes at the beginning, and then it goes in transcendence at the end, at least hopefully, of encountering death and art's relationship to death, and ends there with that, and it kind of weaves between the two, though it starts out almost entirely the comic and it ends almost entirely the serious part. So I do like to intertwine them when I can.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot of that in performance art, how to do, ways to do that can be a very serious piece, but it starts out joking, and how to have them connected. And my daughter does that, in some of her best pieces, some pieces I like best anyway. There's definitely a comic aspect, but it's very serious other points, and they completely intersperse with each other.
Yeah.
But the theater, I think, is inherent. I have the strictly musical pieces, the theater pieces, because the theater pieces, frankly, take a lot more time and money to do.
Yeah.
Do them very cheaply for theater, but we have to rent a theater. We have to rehearse. We can't just show up. Musician, if it's written, you write the score, and if they're good players, you have one rehearsal. If they're improvisers, you have one rehearsal, and you do it.
Yeah.
But theater, you can't do that way. It takes most theater. It takes more time.
Yeah. I'm curious, because I know Brad Dutz. Can I play this? This is a short piece
Sure.
with Alex and Vinnie Golia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's see if that's the piece. I think it's yes.
Huh.
Yeah, so that piece, that evening we had video, I went and videotaped Hecuba's paintings, and then I did things where I followed images a lot like what the eye does and had it go up there with those images. And then we'd have one person start out, this time was Brad Dutz, started it out, and then people would join in as they felt appropriate.
Yeah.
Clearly, I didn't at any point feel like I was going to add to it, so I didn't, which is perfectly all right.
Yeah.
We're not going for a massive sound on that. But the video and the audience could see the painting the whole time. It wasn't the painting, it was a video of the painting rather. And then the music could evolve naturally there. And so other paintings, we designated who was going to do which painting so that each of us had a chance to lead in on something.
And I'm sorry, whose paintings?
Hey Suk, who is a wonderful Korean painter that I've lost touch with. Unfortunately, I've tried to get back in touch with her. She was around here painting it when I was at Pipeline is where I met her at the Pipeline Theater in near the Skid Row area, and loved her paintings and her personality, and wanted to work with her. And so I went and videotaped her paintings, and I still use those the videotapings of her paintings to this day. I still, the last a year ago, the piece I did was I used that as part of the visuals from it.
Beautiful paintings. Right?
Yes.
Man.
And painting is important, how to work it in, and through video, it's not that hard. Other painters I work with, Breeze Smith, his paintings work really well. Someone can do wonderful paintings and they're hard to work with, for me.
Yeah. I have one of Breeze's right here, right opposite. I bought one. It's beautiful. Yeah, he's a really good. Yeah, I mean,
And they suggest music to me. They suggest
yeah.
pull out music there that, and some other people who do wonderful paintings, but I just don't get any musical ideas with them. But his I do, Hisuk I do. My daughter's paintings earlier, I didn't get ideas from, but now she's doing paintings that are intentionally for dancers and musicians, and they really summon it because she's consciously doing it to be a focus for her performance pieces.
So would you say there's movement in the
Maybe
painting or space, or is it the color?
The color, the shades that invite movement, certainly, and invite sound.
Yeah.
Music and dance are perhaps inherently about the easiest forms to connect. And then poetry and drama after that, and then painting. But video makes it easier to combine them.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested in the combination of the medium, not just abstractly, but that's what moves me and compels me. And
yeah.
I see a painting and I want to do music with it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I hear music and I want to move often. And I'm in the audience and I'm going, this isn't your show, just listen. Just nights ago that happened.
I like when that happens.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
No, it's great. Actually, so my group Fish to Birds actually performed at your your events, and so that was at the time I think it was 7 singers, who had been singing improvisationally together, and a few like 3 of them specifically had been majorly into dance too. And boy, when you look back at the videos, it's like it's really it's a great thing to have that involved. It really is beautiful to see that.
And one problem, there are many problems with practical problems with dance. On music, how it's set up matters, but it matters even more in dance. If you're on a stage where you're being seen, and the lighting, it doesn't have to be stage lighting, but some sort of situation where it works. Something can be wonderful, and then you do it in another context, exactly the same movement, and you go, ugh. audiences do even more than I do.
Huh.
Whereas music, you get into a place, unless the acoustics are really horrible, it's not the same experience, but it's not totally different like dance.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you ever work at the Blue Whale?
no, I never did, which is really weird, but I never did anything at the Blue Whale.
That would have been cool.
I had heard such good things about it, but I don't know, I'm an early morning person, so I had to be almost specifically invited to go there and stay up late, and still get up at 4 a.m. So um, I would sleep until 5, but
I see. One time I was there with dudes, and we were watching, listening to Mark Dresser
mhm.
from San Diego. It was so good, and I was looking around, and I didn't recognize anyone in the audience.
Hmm.
Mostly an older crowd, and obviously very hip. And I said that to Brad, and he said, "Yeah, this is a whole other audience." It's wow, man. There's so many different audiences. How,
Yes.
I'm curious, how do you reach your audiences? Do you have dedicated loyal followers? Probably. But how do you reach new people?
Well, I'll tell a little story before that. Um, that I was talking with Vicki Ray, another person I love working with.
Uh-huh.
Um, and she said, "You should send out publicity for Alex's next concert to the Buddhist community." And I said, "Yes, I should, but I have no idea how." And they said, and then my next statement was, "I'm really bad at publicity. I know this because I've done it a lot. I'm not good at publicity, but I've done it a lot." Um, um, Part of it is that our music series, both Alex and I said, if we're going to continue this, it's going to be once a week, once a month, and we're going to make it easy. If it's not easy, we'll stop it in 2 years. And if it's easy, we're going to keep doing it. So we did it for over 20 years
Yeah.
because it was easy. And publicity was part of that. If we had, I would spend. But I want to go to where I can be helpful on it is that LA, any audiences anywhere are somewhat this way, but I think LA is more specific in its audience. They go to this, they don't go to this. And and part of it is perfectly rational that, hey, I don't know where that is. It looks on the map like it's 15 minutes away, but that could be a real hardship. I could go there. My life is in danger, take 4 hours to get there and be very unpleasant. I think I'll stay home. Um, and um, and I think that's legitimate. I'm exaggerating, of course, but not all that much.
Yeah.
That's a response that I have sometimes too. And I go to things.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't go to everything that sounds good.
Yeah.
But part of it is building a community around it. And at Eagle Rock, we had a community, and typically every concert, I would say 3 parts of the audience. People come to hear the first set, people come to hear the second set, and the people who are our regular audience.
Yeah.
And so we'd have three audience groups every time. Now, sometimes one of those groups would be 1 or 2 people. There'd be people who would not bring any audience in at all. And that was, I would say it was okay. And in a way it wasn't, but it was okay. It didn't keep us from booking someone. If we liked what they did and we knew they weren't going to have any audience, we still booked them.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the last 2 big concerts I did where they were the full operas where I, got funding for the old Gizmo, big deals to me, months working on the production, years on the composing. The first one I had maybe 12 people in the audience. The second one, we filled the house. The difference was the second one, I had a large ensemble who were very invested in it. So we had people who came to hear the gamelan. I think they were happy to hear the opera. They wanted to see Wynton on Meek perform. And they were probably happy to say, oh, I've heard of Will Salmon all these years. I should see what he's up to, Oh, Vinny's playing? Yeah, he plays all the time, but yeah, I'll go hear him. So there are a lot of things that were positive to them that wouldn't get them to come out. But the fact that the gamelan was playing got them to come out.
Yeah.
And so we're working on specific how to overlap audiences. I suspect some of those people came would go to the next concert, that even if the gamelan wasn't playing, because they had a good experience
Yeah.
with it artistically, and they saw it was easy to park there.
Yeah.
And hey, it's Pasadena, but it's only 15 minutes away. You know, why should I fight it? Getting them to come that way. There's also, with these, specifically the music Sunday series, we're working on bringing in, there's a younger set of performers who go to each other's shows.
Yeah.
And there's an older set that goes to each other's shows. And so we have aesthetic reasons, you know, when we have people like Miller, who is wonderful, but younger, and he has a younger audience. If we can get his audience, people to come to see him, hear him,
Yeah.
come in here, and we're trying to join the audiences to have a younger audience as well as the older audience.
Yeah. That's good. You know, I'm always interested in that because even though I put out crap loads of PR, I just find it disappointing and hard when I see that all my PR brought no one in.
Yeah. No one's brought anybody in.
I
And
mean,
sometimes you can't tell, but if there are only 6 people in the audience, you know it didn't bring anybody in.
exactly.
And you might have spent $100 on cards.
Yep.
And
Actually,
they're beautiful. And they're beautiful.
I know. I did a boost for Vinny at the on the north. Okay, think about this. So Kulaks is actually kind of part of NoHo,
Mhm.
right? And it's not in the main part of NoHo, but it's definitely like right there. And so there's the NoHo Arts District website.
Mhm.
They also have 3 groups on Facebook. So I've been, you know, doing my due diligence, and I bought a boosting for. I picked Vinny because I really want um, I really want Vinny and his music to reach a broader audience. And it's in North Hollywood. What other North Hollywood venue is playing, you know, this kind of music? And yeah, it didn't seem to do anything. And supposedly the boost reaches 10,000 people in NoHo. Now, how do people, I'm sure a few hundred people are looking for something to do, you know, and they're looking on the side or they're, you know, it's kind of mind blowing for me. I mean, I'm not going to stop, you know, doing what I do, but I do have friends who are, let's say, not professional singers, but semi or amateurs. They get lots of people out. They're supporting each other. They send personal messages. I don't have time for that. I mean, that's a little beyond, you know. You know, I mean, I'll send it to a few people who I think would really like it. But the act of PR is it's very interesting, and also the artist doing PR for themselves. As you said, there's like you've had some people who just didn't bring anybody in at all, and I've had experiences with that too. And you just think that we're all on the same page, kind of. You know, we all want an audience, you know, and there's different levels, of course. Um, but I just kind of think it's, I guess, I don't know if I'd call it luck per se, but it's, you know, why is my friend who's doing these same things I am musically, you know, at this level of doing concerts and, you know, working? Why? It's your own personal path. I mean, I know that. So it's kind of the same way. I feel like, you know, got to keep doing it and that's it. You just keep doing it and putting it out and, making little cracks and crossing over audiences, like you say.
Yeah, but it's tough. I mean, there's kind of a, speaking for myself, and well, maybe true with you too, that I'm really committed to doing my art, and I want to do it the best I can, and I hope people like it. But I'm only going to do so much to modify it to get people to like it. Now, definitely one of the things I try to do is, if there are imperfections or things that are faults with it that on my own, it's no big deal, but it is a big deal to them. Okay, I'm going to change it.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and it's interesting because for me, some things that I say, how can anybody not like that? My clown bits, they don't have as good a following as my serious bit. It's my serious operas.
Huh.
The clown bits, so like it, I go to not Pipeline, to Sunspace,
Okay.
and I go to Unusual Tuesday, and the people are there very excited about it, but they never come to my shows. Afterwards, I do a 9-minute bit there, and they, oh, that was glorious. That was glorious. Now, maybe they had a little too much beer. I don't know. But I give flyer and they don't show up.
Yeah.
But if I come back there again, they're so happy to see me there again.
Yeah.
And I have some of that, but I try not to do that too much to where I get locked in where I'm going to go. I try to go to different things. There is also, this is not an important point, but I think it does affect some specifics. There's a saturation point too.
Yeah.
I hear a lot from what I present of really good improvising music, free improvisation.
Yeah.
And so I need to go hear something that may not be the top of my list, even though it is the top of my list of things that I value, but I've heard it a lot. And frankly, on Vinny, I would say, I love this about Vinny, that he says yes to nearly everything.
Yeah.
He goes and he performs. Okay, sure, I'll be there. I'll be there. And it's wonderful. And I benefit from that.
Yeah.
But it does mean a lot of people admire Vinny, but won't come to the concert because they've seen him somewhere else the month before.
Right.
And
Yes,
then we had this, your singers who do this. I remember one time a bass player we had who was good, but he wasn't quite as good as a couple of other bass players that I worked with, but he hadn't done anything for 2 years.
Yes.
And the place was packed. This was Ego Rock, so packed means 60 people. It was packed. And I go, whoa, because his friends and the people who valued his music, which was good, this was their one chance to hear him.
Right.
But the fact is, you and I, and nearly everyone else we know in this realm, we don't want to just perform once every 2 years. That doesn't work. We want to be like Vinny and perform all the time with a lot of exciting people. That's what we want. And that's actually, in some ways, a more important priority to me than a large audience, is getting to perform with people and doing my own work and performing other people's work that's exciting is actually the more important item than having a large audience, or even a medium-sized audience. But I do want an audience. I really do. And then there's some people, the personal context, some people are in circles where people go to things.
Yeah.
But I remember one friend I had, ex-friend actually, and this was the incident where I invited her to a concert. She said, oh, I never go to a friend's concert. And I went, oh, maybe you want to come to mine now. I didn't say that, but I should have. Because I went, she was a performer herself.
Oh my gosh.
She was a performer, not, a professional level. It was something she just, we did scripture reading at church that we made into drama. And no, I don't go to friends' performances. And that was like an article of faith of hers. This was my practice. And I go, whoa. And there is that friends, I know, some people I know, if I hate it, what am I going to do? And this is probably going to be some wild, crazy avant-garde stuff. And they're right. And it's going to challenge me and I won't like it. So
Yeah.
I think I'll go and endanger the friendship.
Right.
So it is hard. We say build a community, but just because you're in one community doesn't mean they're going to come to your show.
Yeah. That's very true. Well, I mean, and obviously that's part of the attraction of traveling, especially to other countries. You know,
Yes.
you can be a star.
I was a star in Tokyo.
Yeah, man.
Yes,
4,000
dude.
people in the audience listening to me and a piano player, captive audience, clapping after everything. It's like, yeah, that's, and it's not, I mean, it's not going to stop me from doing my art, but it's nice
Yeah.
every now and then to have that, uh, you know, that acknowledgement. Yeah, yeah, it's nice. What you're doing has value,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes. 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 And I have to say, this interview process, this podcast you're doing, does that in a different way.
Yeah,
I think it's wonderful what you're doing. I think it's wonderful you're doing this series.
thanks.
I have choir practice on Thursday nights, uh,
Oh.
but I have to work my way around it. Talking, I have to work my way around this. So at least I need to put in a couple of appearances to show that I love what you're doing. I do. I do. I love what you're doing, what you're presenting. I love the way you talk, the conversation that you're doing. You are enabling this community wonderfully. And I always thought you had a pleasant personality, but I didn't know it played out this well as it is playing out now.
Oh, thank you. That's nice. Thank you. Well, you know, yeah, this particular the show has been very interesting. I think you're number 540,
Wow.
and it's been very interesting talking to all people all over the planet, and um, I like to go deeper. I don't like the list of things that the person's done. I that's kind of boring to me. And and uh it's been it's been wonderful as we're speaking, it's been wonderful to share a same reality about certain things, especially being an artist. And especially during the pandemic, of course, because I'm I actually think it was very special, to have the pandemic. I mean, of course,
I
all
agree.
that aside, it was so special because people slowed down and they looked around and they saw art more, and and I think I feel like we artists got a better name during the pandemic. It's like, oh, yeah, there is a lot of art going on, a lot of performance. And so I'm kind of thankful for that.
Yes. Yeah, I think there was a huge loss, but there was a huge gain.
Yeah.
And, some of the gains were surprising during COVID. Some of it, oh, of course, but other things, really, that is better, isn't it? In line with that, I feel like some venues, the Blue Whale being the most conspicuous of them, but also the Sun Space, that there was people that presented music that disappeared, and it was a real loss. But I feel like it's coming back, and it's coming back with everyone more aware of each other,
Yeah.
um, more supportive of each other, the different venues. And we each have a different take on what we want to do. We function differently. World Stage down that Dwight does functions very differently than what you're doing, but there is some real connection too. And
Absolutely.
it's great. Some people would never work down there, and there's some people that never work at your space. But there's a lot of people that work what they do would work at either space well.
Absolutely.
I think that we have that, and Jeff Schwartz,
Hmm.
and the wonderful what's going on at the Oracle.
Hmm.
I feel like we have more network
Yeah.
than we did before. I know I'm more aware of it. Um, and that's a very good thing.
Yeah. Um, my friend Dan has posted your website, the Open Gate Theater website, for concerts, recent concerts, etc. And let's just talk about that a little bit. So what's your schedule? You have a certain schedule, right?
Yeah.
What is it?
There are two different types of concerts that we do our regular, what I call regular season. If we were called up and asked to do something somewhere else, we would, and we
Yeah.
will do other things as well. But the two self-producing concerts that we do, we have the Sunday series that's the first Sunday of every month, once a month.
Uh-huh.
That typically is two bands, but not always. And we have, it used to be Alex would do the curating, but he's wanting to pull back. He wanted to pull back from that. So now we have four curators, and each of us, we semi-rotate who does it. And so we'll produce two acts, and it will definitely an emphasis on improvisation, but it doesn't have to be improvised, but and even more clear that new music.
Yeah.
And we now have a piano, whereas at Eagle Rock we had just awful piano that we weren't even supposed to use.
Oh, by the way, I just have to say that first piece, that piano was so, some people would go, "Oh God, I'm not going to play that piano," but you made that piano sound so good.
I had
That
fun
was
with it.
great.
All those out there was a Miles Davis album. What was it? Was it Bitches Brew? I think it was Bitches Brew. No, it was Live Evil, in
Uh,
which one of the keyboard players, the piano on it didn't work. Instead of boom, bang, bang, he did it again and realized bang, bang, ding, 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 and it became the theme for the next section. That's the way you do it. That's the way it works.
you
And that
made it
piano
sound
had
so
lots
good,
of
man.
the themes in it.
That was great, man. I was really
Oh,
I thought
fun.
that was
And
great.
and that's part of the reason why, if I wear a silly hat and I'm playing my Dionysus, the god of theater, kind of clowning sort of thing, I can do that. And
Yeah.
everyone is along for the ride.
Yeah, yeah.
And Rebecca was great on that. I would love to work with her
Fantastic.
again. Um,
I'm sorry, her name is Rebecca.
it's just
Oh,
slipped me the last name.
okay.
She's
Well,
in
if
Long Beach. I haven't worked with her for
she's in
quite a
Long
while,
Beach.
but she's a
Very good. Wonderful.
terrific violinist. Yeah, it's strange. Used to be I had all trombonists.
Oh,
Now I have mostly string players that I work with, and
interesting.
it's the trombonists. Each of them disappeared in a different way, and each of the string players have appeared in a different way, and which is actually good because when I had trombonists, I was mostly a dancer,
Uh-huh.
and now with string players, I'm more of a singer. And strings don't cover up the voice like a trombone does. I remember Bruce Fowler going, "We'll be good," because he knew he didn't mind playing soft, but he had to be conscious and try to sing to play.
I think a lot more I think a lot more string players are I think the over the years, the recent years, more strings have been improvising and right
Yeah,
getting into other genres. I see that a lot.
yes. I have several string players who are terrific improvisers
Yeah.
that I know, and that wasn't true. Jeff Gautier was wonderful,
Yeah.
been wonderful for a long time, but that was about it. But now there are several other wonderful players around on strings, which also shows that there's not third wave or whatever it was that there's people who come from a classical background, which string players almost always do,
Yeah.
but are full on improvisers. That they're not slumming it when they improvise. This is a
Yeah.
big part of who they are and what they do.
Yeah.
And so, like Jeff, as I mentioned, and Maggie, and then Alec, who moved to New York, but and then um, Rebecca, and there are others too, the
Yeah.
string players um, that are wonderful, that are around, that are very good improvisers.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember in one of my venues that I created years ago called Ca del Sol. It's in North Hollywood.
Hmm.
So there was a night when great straight ahead jazz player Tamir Hendelman and I
Hmm.
were working, and literally nobody was in the room. The bartender. That was about it. And in walked one of the great studio jazz piano players, Mike Lang,
Hmm.
with his friend, whose name I can't quite remember, a brilliant classical pianist. And Mike fell asleep because he was pretty smashed. And his friend sat down at the piano with Tamir, and they started improvising through classical and jazz. And I was the only one experiencing it, and it was really divine. It was so beautiful. Now, speaking of audiences too, that definitely changed me. And that experience was 20 years ago or so, and I still absolutely get chills thinking about it. So that has affected me, which has affected, those lives I've touched too. So much for low audiences, right?
Well, sometimes it's a blessing to have a low audience, sometimes because it's not a good show, but sometimes it's the intimacy that happens. I remember right after my parents died, I had a show, and everyone who was involved in the show, I had a strong personal connection. My daughter, who was a pretty young performer there, I think she was an undergraduate at that point.
Yeah.
And Alex and Keo and Jama. I think that's it. Maybe there's a bass player too, who I felt very strong personal connections with. And not one person showed up in the audience. Not one. My wife was the only one who was there. And I went, that's okay. This is a memorial concert to my parents.
Mm,
And these are all people that my loss matters to. My daughter's loss matters to. The sweet grief that I was in, because it was a sweet grief. My parents' passing was very beautiful, very beautiful.
yeah.
Um, so it was a very sweet passing, and I didn't hesitate to be fully emotional and engaged in that because I knew everyone around totally was with me. And if there had been a very hip audience come in, as this was a Peter studio,
Yeah.
where they were very hip work, my daughter said, "Dad, you'll never be cool enough for them." Um, which she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I said that." No, 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 no. It makes me feel a lot better, actually. But that there weren't people being critical of it there.
Yeah.
That we could, but we were. It was a little something just for us. Now we didn't have to pay $1,000 in rent to be there,
Yeah.
but it was a beautiful experience with no audience.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Did we finish talking about the schedule at all?
No. So we do it first month, and then we also got the one grant we have gotten several years in a row is the Pasadena grant to do. Basically, I use it to produce our operatic sort of pieces, our theater pieces, and so we've had 3 of those a year. When even when it was COVID, we had 3, but there were videos at that point during height of COVID. But we have 2-3 year. At this point, they're in the same basic space, but they're in the big chapel sanctuary. And so this week, but that's 3 times a year, irregular when it is. And if it was called for, it would have more than 3.
Yeah.
The Sunday series, I want to keep that real regular Sunday. And I think everyone does.
Yeah.
Um, but the other one can be irregular according to need. And so they just happen to stack up fairly close. So this Sunday is Alex's piece, which is part of the Pasadena series, not the Sunday series. And then next week is the Sunday series, which is going to be Open Gate Ensemble, but we're doing a set that's featuring Anne LeBaron and a set that's featuring Roxanne Steinberg, and 2 amazing artists who are very supportive of what we're doing. And so I'm really excited about these concerts. And then we'll have once a month after that, and count on that. And the other ones you can't count on when it's going to be, but
Yeah.
look at emails and Facebook and you'll find out, one would hope.
I'm coming this Sunday. I
Great.
can't come the following one because I'm going to see Javan, who's a very prolific old time Brazilian
Mm,
writer and singer, and this is like, I don't know if I'll ever see him again. But and anyway, but this week I'm planning on coming.
great.
I'm
Should be
excited.
good.
Yeah.
It'll probably, Alex can play almost anything, but his own pieces are always have a very strong spiritual focus. And this will be that way too. Um,
And it starts at 7.
mhm.
And how long does it go? An hour and a half, 2 hours?
Yeah, we have two sets typically, and so we're usually done by 9.
Okay.
Um, if not 9, not long afterwards. We need to typically get out of there not long after that because they pay someone to close the place up. And so, yeah, we should be done by 9, not much after 9.
And I'm going to actually write the address down here. Could you give it to me
Let me see.
if you know it?
I should.
You
I
you
should know it.
laughingly mentioned parking, but is parking easy?
Very easy. 301 North Orange Grove Boulevard.
301 North Orange Grove Boulevard in Pasadena.
Yeah,
And is
it's
it
right next to the Gamble House, if you know the Gamble House.
kind of
It's
next to?
near Old Town, Pasadena. The church has a parking lot that is, and then it can stretch it because the Gamble House is closed. It can stretch into there. We
Is it
happen.
actually a church?
What?
It's a church.
Yes, neighborhood universalist, Unitarian Universalist. It's just nice as a church because um, it has a sense of sacred, but it's not sectarian. It's a Unitarian church, so there's nothing specific to a religion. But it has a nice piano and a pipe organ and beautiful woodwork. It's a neo-craftsman building, perhaps the best of them, where they in the 70s tried to do a craftsman style building and I think succeeded wonderfully in the architecture. So it's a beautiful site, beautiful site. And the parking is right there. If you have a wheelchair, no problem. Roll right into there.
May I,
Um,
may I ask how you guys hooked up, you and the church?
the church is easy. Anyone could hook up there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say anyone. I think my friends who do burlesque shows probably couldn't do them there, um, but they're very open to doing concerts. It's one of their priorities,
Oh,
and you have to pay rent.
uh-huh.
Um, but for the size of the hall and the beauty of the hall, the rent is really good, and the people there are delightful to work with.
Yeah.
And so we're not really part of that church, but um, as time goes on, we are becoming part of the scene. That's where they're all, once a month, and then other ones besides that. They're very good to work with. So if someone is looking for a space, I do recommend it. Just not the first Sunday of the month. It's already booked. But it's a very nice space, right off the freeway. So I had some people complain, oh, it's all went to Eagle Rock and oh, it's so far away. Wait a minute. It will take you 20 seconds more and not the time that you don't spend parking. 3 minutes ahead. It's
I
really good
get that,
parking.
man.
It's free.
It's
And
free. Did you say it's free?
yeah, it's free.
Oh, Roland, it's not a donation basis, but I'm sure you
Oh,
can
the parking is
donate.
free.
Oh,
Parking.
the show
Parking
is
concert is, I think we put it at $10. I meant to put it at 15 but I accidentally put 10, so it's 10.
okay.
You can't back off of that after you put that out there. But the concert is not free, but the parking is free. And I kind of sometimes I go to events and I would go to things at UCLA, which I haven't done for quite a while. I'm going to a free concert. I'm spending $20 on parking. What's wrong with this picture?
Well, and also traditionally, like you think, especially Pasadena, can be just difficult to park or find spaces and stuff. So it's nice to know that it's easy.
It's really
And
easy.
yeah, yeah.
And we had a full house last time. We had 100,
Oh,
we had a big performance space. So if we had sat normal sort of sitting, we could have sat another 50, 60 people in there. But there was no problem parking.
cool. Wonderful.
So I do recommend it. There will be a little bit of video, mostly just the poetry that's being used. So you can have that access to that.
Okay.
And then the following, yeah. So yeah, I do recommend the space is great in every way.
Do people do you have snacks there for purchase or anything like that?
Typically, no. I'm bringing water bottles now.
Okay.
Um, I haven't really tried to do that. It's just one
It's an
thing.
extra thing
Um,
to
come to think of it, though, Jim, we have a major change that happened about a year ago, a little over a year ago, is we got a new person who's a key person in Open Gate, Jim Mora, who is production manager, stage manager, lighting person, who's involved with Open Gate Productions, period. And so he sometimes shows up with snacks for people. He thinks that way. He thinks of the context wonderfully, and he contributes a lot to what we are, and I think major to how we've grown in the last year and a half. I think that he's been major factor in that.
Yeah. It just gives me so many ideas. Sorry, writing down ideas.
Yeah, it is a space, got a piano, they got a good piano, both the small space is costs less money, but it's a smaller space, and they both have pianos. I think the smaller space has a good piano. First time we played there, it wasn't tuned, but I think the second time was tuned, and it sounded good the second time. Anyway, old Steinway.
Oh, here, sorry. I'm answering and my typing was wrong. Roland, it is April 30th and May 7th. So May 7th is the normal first Sunday of the month performance, but this Sunday is a special extra performance.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I did that. All right. Yeah. I think we should let's play one more thing while we're here. Let's see. So, coming back. Salmon fishing? No, I'm kidding.
No.
Let's see. Hecuba, Open Gate. Was that one of your?
That was an earlier version of what we did this time, and I think that's excerpts from it.
Ah, okay.
Which can be a good thing. There's some good excerpts.
Do you want
I
me
didn't get videotape. The camera didn't work when I was performing.
something else, or what would you like me to play?
Let's see. That one's the full thing. Let's see. I think the excerpt. Not the hearing voices. Let's go down a little bit. Let's see. I'm afraid the more recent ones aren't the ones that come up. It's the older ones that come up.
I'm thinking, yeah, now we're talking about salmon, actually.
Yes. Let me go. Let's see. Not Nathan Hubbard, because that's not Open Gate itself. Let's see. No. Let's go back up.
Okay.
I think it's going to take a while to get something better than what we already have up here. Let's go with the Philoctetes part. Part one. Yeah.
Okay.
This is when we were in a moose lodge.
Okay.
Very nice, but very funky. It's Vinny playing. Maybe this isn't the best one. I could have gone through and picked.
Well, the music's good so far.
That's what matters, right?
Yeah.
We paraded up the steps. got to build a set in this Moose Lodge.
So wait a minute, what did you say?
We got to build this set in the Moose Lodge. It was
Oh,
wonderful.
okay. I love how it starts off here. Oh, okay. Cool. Well, that was the first part, apparently.
Yes.
Cool. And that was I couldn't quite get what it was.
Philoctetes, it's a Greek tragedy, and if you saw it, we'd explain the story. In fact, I come out at the beginning and do a monologue,
Oh,
play the piano and explain it, and it's written in the text. It's not a major story to most people, but it is to me. Philoctetes was abandoned by the Trojan army as they were going to Troy because of an injury he had. And 10 years, but the prophecy said they need to come back and get him to join them if they were going to win. And so come back and trick him into going with them. So
that was the story.
yes, that's a very brief version of the story, but the real story isn't that lengthy either, but just twice that long.
Right.
So yeah, and that's an opera we did. But Joseph, who was singing, the dark-haired man of the two, works with Open Gate quite a bit. He's an amazing singer, an amazing actor. His songwriting is superb. It's really quite moving. Very melancholy, most of it.
I actually visually appreciated the other guy's arms.
Mm-hmm.
Arm work.
But he moved out of the area, so.
Oh, oh well.
So-
Well, it's come to the end of the 2 hours, and first I want to thank you for spending 2 hours with me and with us, and it's really great to get to know you more and to hear talk about all this stuff, which is very meaningful, and yeah, it's inspiring. It's very inspiring.
It's been wonderful talking with you as well. It's been great to connect with you.
Thanks. Thank
So
you.
thank you for doing this.
Actually, tomorrow Nathan Hubbard is on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So he mentioned Nathan Hubbard just before, and he and I have a mutual friend, Rick Helzer. I don't know if
I don't know him.
he probably, but he's an incredible pianist. He lives in Fresno,
Mhm.
and he lived in LA, then he lived in San Diego and taught down there, and then he moved back to Fresno. So anyway, really great. I'm very happy to have talked, and I really look forward to coming Sunday.
Great.
It's going to be
Thank you
fun.
very much.
And you have a new friend in Joyce Glasgow, so she's going to
Great.
contact you too.
I'll connect with her.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thanks, Will.